Here we go. All right, no corrections or questions. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay. So I'm just gonna go quickly through some of the things that I've been working on this month. And as always, if you have questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to elaborate. So for new homeowner mailings, there were 6 for December. I have not gotten those out yet. Been a little backed up, but those letters will go out. For the Welcome Center, as you've all seen, the painting is finished and the new signs are up. We're just waiting now to do the interior displays. And I've been working with Julia and Zoltan, and the maps and the lettering and one of the historic walls, the wall with the water fountain, are going to production this week and hopefully will be installed next week. So that's exciting. So it'll say welcome to Washington. It'll have the map, the QR code to bring you to the Explore website, and the beginnings of the historic display, the veterans display, and then the depot train station display. We're just finalizing the photos, and we're starting to work on the background information. So that'll be a second, it'll kind of go in 2 phases. So, but that's almost completed. I just need to meet with the staff up at the museum one more time to just solidify the last couple of pictures. So hopefully that'll be in soon, and we'll be able to check the Welcome Center off our list. So I'll keep you posted. The Arts Council, we have put the call for volunteers in the selectmen's email over the holidays and for next week. I believe the deadline for volunteering was on this last Friday. And the selectmen, if they have a chance to go through all of the people that have submitted their interest, they may or may not make the appointments at this selectmen's meeting. If they're not ready to for this selectmen, they will for the following. But what Jim has told me is that they've received numerous really wonderful qualified applicants, so that are people interested. So that's fantastic. It was agreed that the council should not have more than 10 members. Just felt like that would become too unwieldy. So we'll see. I believe he said that there were more than 10 people who've submitted their interest. So we'll see where that goes. But once those people are appointed, oh good, Jim's here. Once they're appointed, we'll go ahead and try to call a first meeting and set a calendar for meetings and some bylaws and or not even really bylaws, like procedures for operation. So that's moving forward, and I will keep you posted on that as well. Conferences, I just wanted to let you know, it kind of relates to some other stuff we're working on. There's a conference later this week by Connecticut Main Street called Reimagining Communal Spaces to be More Community Friendly. And it's for indoor and outdoor spaces. So I thought that sounded really interesting, and I will let you know what I learned from that. So I'll be attending that. It's just, I think, like a 2-hour webinar, so it's not an all-day thing. The photo contest, I reported on last month to let you know that we had 68 people enter photos, and we got some really stunning ones. And the winter contest is currently open, and notice for that has run in the selectmen's email. I got shared it with ASAP and got the email contacts for all of the schools, for the art departments at the schools. So I haven't had a chance to yet, but I'm going to share that so that the students know that they can enter as well. So that's great. And I just, while we've got Lisa and Fran here, want to thank the businesses who've offered gift certificates that are being given to the winners. Hickory Stick and the Washington Food Market offer gift certificates, as well as Marty's and the Pantry and 5 Janes. I think that's everyone so far. So I forget what the deadline is for the winter contest, but it is currently running, and I think there's like another month, but I'll double check that. Next, the Titus project. So you'll remember last year we had some surveying and engineering concepts done for the Titus block to improve the pedestrian flow, the safety, the accessibility, parking, that whole gamut, and some traffic calming as well, running through the depot right there. We had prepared that all in anticipation for the connectivity grant, which didn't open last year, but at one of the conferences I was attending, they said it will be opening this year, the connectivity grant, but there's also some other IIJA, which is the Infrastructure Act, which is federal money. There's some money set aside for safe streets, which may or may not be applicable. So I have been in contact with the COG, who has a new member, Casey Faraci, who comes from the DOT. So we're just looking for eligible or grants that this project would be eligible for. So I just wanted everyone to know that I haven't forgotten about it. We made some great progress, and we just need to look for some funding. And one of the things I wanted to get some input from you all on, which was part of our goals for this year, which is on the agenda later. But one of our goals was to really look at our village centers and improving pedestrian and parking options for the villages. And while I've got some ideas about Marbledale, I'm a little hesitant to try to spend any more either engineering or other money moving forward on plans until we make some progress on what we've done. So I feel like I want to concentrate on seeing if we can get some funding to actually do some of the work at Titus before coming up with more concepts. But I don't know if anyone has, Wayne?
Yeah, I'd say a couple things in general. One, that the Planning Commission, of course, is working on the 2023 update to the POCD. We will, at some point in the near future, be holding an informational meeting in Marbledale to try to get some input from residents on what they want or don't want to see in Marbledale. Also, in terms of any monies coming from the Infrastructure Act, if the Safe Streets or any other type of initiative is anything like the broadband initiative, there is no way we would even be able to apply for any of that money until 2024 at the earliest, more likely than not 2025. So you do have some time to think about, applying for whatever. You're not going to miss a window.
That's great. Actually, there was a component of it. I was just talking to Casey this morning of the Safe Streets that closed already in September of 2022. I don't know if that was a first round. I couldn't clarify exactly what that was.
That was probably CARES Act money.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
CARES Act money is kind of closing out right around now. ARPA money closes out. Well, applications close out, I think, like end of this year or next year. ARPA money has to be spent by like 20, I forget now. But there's always a lag with these federal funds because there's, it's suspenders and a belt, and it's the Department of Redundancy department and whatever bad analogy you can think of. It just takes time for that money. It takes a lot of time from when you actually hear about that money being available for it to actually be available. So.
Right. Well, that was part of what I was gathering with the Infrastructure Act. It was like $6 billion over 5 years, but really didn't describe whether it was going to be given to the states to then disperse, or you would be applying directly to the federal government. So I think, so the DOT did a presentation. Actually, if you go to their website, they have a capital plan where they talk about the connectivity grant, the IIJA money coming through with the safe streets and some pedestrian, you know, a lot of intentions, but without much instruction about exactly when and how that's all going to roll out. So I just want to let you all know, I'm trying to stay abreast of that, and I want to be ready to go when it opens. So I'm going to try to put get the Titus plan in shape. We had estimates done, but for most of it, but not for the traffic calming. So I might try to complete that component of it. And it also seemed like it might be beneficial to break it into phases that made sense, because there were limits, like the last time they had ran the connectivity grant, there was a limit of 600,000. And this project in total will be at least twice that, more than twice that. So, but we might be able to complete it in phases if we can chunk it out in ways that make sense. So I'm going to take a look at that. Thanks for the info, Wayne, and we'll as a group continue to talk about the village centers and when and how. And obviously, I would love to attend the meeting in Marbledale to hear what the residents have to say. Ironically, next up, planning maps. I've met with Shelley. So as part of the preparation for the next POCD, new maps were done, and some of the current and previous land use categories, the categories changed. The information, the way the information was gathered from the assessors seems to possibly have changed. So I was really looking mostly at the commercial listings, figuring it would be good for me to know who all is doing business out in our R1s especially. And so we were just doing some comparison and some cleaning up. So I just thought I'd let you know we're working on that. And I know the Planning Commission will be talking about it. There's some interesting changes in labeling and definition, whereas rental / multifamily housing used to fall under residential, and now it's commercial rental. And I don't know if, you know, that's for the Planning Commission to decide, but it looks like there's all sorts of commercial activity happening where there wasn't before, whether it's a camp up on Mount Tom, or like Mount Tom Lake or whatever. There's camp up there, and it's big, huge purple. Some of the schools have been labeled as commercial. I don't know if it's because they're partially renting some of their facilities, but so anyway, I've been working with Shelley, and we'll continue to look at those maps and get a good list of questions. Did you want to chime in, Wayne? I figured.
Yeah, just quickly, the problem is that if you use assessor data to craft the map, they have different categories than if a conservation district, for example, would craft the map. It's like, you know, the assessor, if the assessor has a property on their list that has a business registered there, they will label it as a commercial property. For example, if somebody works at home and they have a consulting business, they could be living out on Nettleton Hollow Road, and all of a sudden that property gets labeled as commercial by the assessor because somebody's operating their home business there, when it's obviously not a commercial property. And this is the problem, that when you use assessor data to create land use maps, the categories don't align, and you get some very strange looking results.
Correct. Yeah, and I think, well, so the Planning Commission will have to go through and decide which categories they want to look at, because it's really hard to map, to see change over time when all the categories change. So yeah, so that'll be a further conversation for the Planning Commission as we identify some of those. The services directory update, as you all remember, last year we worked on last year, early this year, I don't know, they blend together, but we added a services directory to the Explore website. We did not do a print guide because we felt that it would probably become out of date too quickly, but it's an electronic guide. And a business in town, Sarah Guillemette with the Home Connecticut. Shoot, I should remember the name of it. But anyway, she helps place people who need some home either assistance or other kinds of assistance in maintaining their homes or getting around. And so she's been using that services directory, and she offered to help me update it. So I've got it on my desk and we're going through. We're going to make sure there are a few people on there that have left and some new people who are not there. So we just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. And if you have a chance and can go to the website and take a look through the services directory, if you notice anybody there that has left town, we would just like it to be as accurate as possible. So I'll be working on that. I will also next week, Tuesday, January 24th. Gosh, that's next week already. Will there be doing a WBA workshop? Julia Nabel from Explore will be coming to do a presentation, 10 free ways to promote your business. So she'll be talking about all of the avenues for promotion that are available to our businesses. And Jim and I will also be there to answer any questions that businesses may have about what the town can be doing to help them, as well as Lisa and some of the executive board of the WBA will be there to also answer questions about what the WBA does and how we all can work together. So that's going to be at Judy Black on January 24th at 5:30. And I would say you're all welcome to attend.
Michelle,
Yes.
is there a Zoom capability for that meeting?
You know, somebody asked me for that, and I am going to try to set that up. I verified with Laura that there's Wi-Fi. I've got my hands on a projector, but I need to see if, I just need to check. I'm working on the technology. So, and thanks for that reminder, actually, because if I'm going to publicize that, I need to get that out soon. So, my goal is to offer it by Zoom as well. I think it'll work really well for Julia's presentation because she will have a slideshow. So I'll be able to share the screen. So anybody who's zooming in would be able to see that PowerPoint. I don't know how well it's an open space, unlike here in the conference room. I don't know if they'll let me even bring the owl. So it might just be a laptop with the rest of the discussion might not work as well and is in a hybrid setting, but I think it's worth trying. So I will try.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. I think that was it for any of the reports on what I've been working on. Does anyone have questions that we didn't ask along the way? All right. So moving on to new business, the first item on is the daycare status and communications. Dan asked me to put this on the agenda, and I should have asked more about why, but I do know that there's been a letter to the editor in the newspapers that some of you may have seen, and I did also want to let you all know that there was an FOI request made of myself about regarding all communications regarding the daycare between myself and members of the EDC and the Board of Selectmen and members involved in the new nonprofit. So I have been in contact with Tom Hennick, who's the FOI guidance person for the state, and I have those prepared. So just so you know, email communications between us regarding the daycare have been requested. We haven't really spoken much online about the daycare, and most of our conversations have been here at in our meetings. So there isn't much there, but I just wanted to let you all know that that has been requested. Also, a community member did send a letter to the Board of Selectmen, and I think as well as the town's lawyer regarding some questions about the daycare and the lease on the building that the central office is in. And I would just say, as an update, there is no real update on the status. The last we left it was that the superintendent had left and the Board of Education did not feel comfortable moving out of their offices and up to Chippewa as the previous superintendent had intended. So we were going to just wait for the new superintendent and let him get his feet under him and then have a conversation. And the new superintendent started January 1st, or probably the 2nd. And I have sent the PowerPoint and the recording of the public meeting that we had about the daycare, and links to all of the information that's online, and we are going to be meeting shortly. So I'll bring the new superintendent up to speed, and then once we have that conversation, I will keep you posted. So that's sort of the update. Dan, did I cover everything you were hoping, or was there something else with the daycare that you had a question about?
Well, it was, you may recall, it was triggered by a letter to the editor written by an attorney who apparently lives over in New Preston. His name is Randall J. Carrera.
Mm-hmm.
And I had two questions. One of them is, does anybody know him? And what would, okay. And the second question, I didn't either, Wayne. And the second question that I had was, what was likely to be his interest? So was there some way we could respond to him? And perhaps in a broader sense, the question might very well be, is there some additional communication we should be providing to the community? And one thought, for example, would make it kind of a review lead as a lead article in the March newsletter that's going out, so that we play a role in managing this conversation in the community, because no small number, I would say I probably have heard from a half a dozen, maybe even 8 people who have reached out to me and have asked, what is going on with that? And tell us about, and I immediately realized that I had a lot of commentary, but I didn't have a lot of information, and maybe it was time to update the community.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dan. And I will see, the deadline for the March newsletter is February 10th.
Yes.
And so let me see if conversations with the new superintendent would lend to a new article. When I last spoke with Greg Cava, who's the chair of the Board of Ed, he asked me to just pause everything and sort of try to stay out of the papers, because they just wanted, it's all on pause. Nothing's happening. Nothing has changed except that there's new administration at the school. And
do you have any reason, or do you know of any reason why this attorney would surface this issue at this particular moment?
well, I do know him, and he follows things happening at the school. He was in contact about the agri-science as well.
Okay.
So he just, is one of those people who every now and then pays attention to what's going on. He did have a couple of interesting questions. If you'll notice, his letter was really mostly a bunch of questions. And we're just kind of holding and waiting to talk to the schools before we can really answer a lot of those questions. Because there's been no movement since the summer, really. I mean, we got the grant, steep grant, but there's been no movement. Jim, did you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I would just add that that the gentleman's letter was a request of the Board of Selectmen to have those questions reviewed by the town attorney. It was sort of rendered moot when, again, the school is not prepared this year to do anything with that building.
Right.
So it's simply not going to get into their budget to review. And in my conversation with Greg Kaba was, we have, from the day the region was formed, the buildings have been supported by the towns, but repaired and maintained by the region. And that continues to be how I see it, is that's up to the region to take care of those things, but that's not going to happen this year for sure.
Okay,
And you know, just, I can shed light on a couple of the things. I'm not an attorney, but one of the questions was, does the grant compel the region to pay for these things? And of course not. There's no state grant that compels towns how they have to vote, how they have to. So, you know, that I can safely answer. But the others, again, it was rendered moot by the fact that the school's not going to do anything this year.
okay.
Great, thank you, Jim. It's helpful. Does anyone else have questions? I hope you all saw the article that Tricia very timely found in the newspaper. It was yesterday's, I think it was yesterday's newspaper. And I've shared that article with you. It was from the State Commerce Committee's meeting. The co-chair, Senator Hartley, was talking about the issue of filling vacant jobs in the state and how childcare is critical in that. And she said that childcare is an economic driver. It is most important, was one of the quotes that kind of jumped out at me. So it's still a timely issue. We've known that it's been an issue in our town for a long time. So we still need to continue thinking about childcare and a daycare option, whether it's in that school building or not. But for now, we're just going to be on hold while we wait for the school to think about this. So, all right, if there are no further questions on the daycare, we can move forward to some business here. I originally had put on the agenda the mid-year review of our goals because we're mid-year. And then I got an email last week from our business manager that she would like preliminary budget numbers by next week. So I think, yeah, I know that's a big ask. Like, wow. Okay, so we can pull up. Does everybody have? I sent around our last year's request. Actually, and I can pull it up. I can share it on the screen too, so in case somebody doesn't have it in front of them. I have some recommendations and some observations, and obviously I want to hear from you all. Can you see, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Here? You see the development plan and the funding request. So we can kind of talk about our goals, I guess, as we go through, but I really want to make sure we talk about the funding requests, since I need to get something to her by next week, which is just a preliminary. I think it's a placeholder while the budget is being developed, and then the selectmen meet with all of the various committees and commissions and employees and continue to work on that. So I think we should get something together today as best we can, and then we can continue to talk about it or do some research for next month's meeting. And we can certainly amend or adjust. But if we go through in order of what we requested last year, the first was to support fundraising for the design and construction of the Washington Community Center. And we had funded $1,500 for printing. I did do some printing that actually came out of last fiscal year's budget, some of the materials to visit. So it wasn't in this year's budget, so I haven't spent more yet on that, but I would propose, even though haven't been moving very much on that, I would propose leaving that for future needs as we move forward with that project. But so maybe we'll just go through each of them and we can come back to see. Another one of our goals was to support the Housing Commission's implementation of the housing plan, but it was not tied to any budget requests. So at this point, I think we can move on from that. So continue to improve and expand the audience engagement with the town's print, social media, and to increase the retail nonprofit economic support. I will let you know that we're gonna go over budget in this category this year, so we need to increase this one for next year, just to do what we've been doing. The town newsletter, I would propose that we ask for the 16,000. The cost of printing has gone up, and we've consistently been 10 pages. It was originally budgeted for an 8-page newsletter that once or twice goes to 10. And now we're more often 10 that once or twice might only have 8. So I think we need to add 3,000 to that line item. And the social media, the contract with Sandor Max has not changed. I don't believe it's changed in all the years we've had that, which is pretty remarkable. I would add though $1,000 because some of the subscription, so their quarterly fee for maintaining all of that has not changed, but we get charged additional for the plugins, like for the MailChimp to mail the newsletter, and for some of the apps that connect the Instagram to the web page, and some of those other ancillary items have increased a little bit. So each quarter it's a couple $100. So if we add $1,000, I think we should be fine there. So that would be an additional 4,000 under town communications. And if we continue going, so broadband fiber optic network, Northwest Connect. Our goal was to form a committee and to work with Northwest Connect to plan and support broadband, which we had an update last month from Wayne. It's an ever-changing environment. And now that Frontier is in the game, I don't know how that changes things. We had anticipated needing to do some kind of survey or possibly a mailer to gauge either interest or to gauge people's what they currently had or their satisfaction with their current what they had, but I don't know that will be necessary moving forward. Wayne, Jim, did you want to weigh in on that?
Just quickly, even if Frontier does what they say they may do, which is not a guarantee, there is really no plausible scenario where Frontier would come in and fiber the whole town. That's just so, the best case scenario is that Frontier would come in and do some of the more, shall I say, populated areas. If the overall goal is to have fiber passing every home and business in Washington, and I think that should be the goal, we're going to need a feasibility study eventually anyway. And before we commit to spending that kind of money, we need to reach out to the community. So I think that we're probably going to need a survey. I think it could be done digitally. I think the people you would reach with a paper survey are the people least likely to be interested in this topic anyway. So we should set aside a little bit of money to do some survey work for the community. Whether we need 2,000, I have no idea if we need that, but we are going to be, just because Frontier has tickled us and said, oh, we might be stringing some fiber in your community, does not mean by any stretch that this problem is solved. It's not.
Correct. That's a great observation. I think maybe we should leave it for now and we can revisit that. 2,000 isn't a lot. It's enough to cover. Well, it takes about $1,100 to $1,200 to print and mail something to the community, whether it's a response card or a survey or whatever it is. So that's enough money for one community outreach or printing of some flyers or something. So I would leave it for now and we can revisit that if we need to. The next goal was all about sustainability, but it did not have any budget tied to it, so we can skip that for now. The next item, work with the subgroup on attracting young families, including services for families and real estate options. This is where the daycare is. And then also we had talked about working with the Housing Commission to help create a middle housing renovation fund, which I have spoken with Judy about that, but we've not done any work on that. The $2,000 that we had budgeted was to possibly get something off the ground with either of those. And none of that has been spent. I don't know that. I don't know, daycare is on hold right now. So I don't know if we want to leave this in as a placeholder. I mean, it's hard because we're talking about next fiscal year. So the budget we're talking about won't even start until July of 2023 and last us through June of 2024. So we're thinking up to 18 months ahead of where we are right now. So it's a little hard to see that far, but does anyone have any comments or thoughts on that line item? No.
I guess you just leave it in place. I mean, like you said, we don't even know, we have a brand new superintendent. For all we know, they may not want to move and then we're back at square one. I mean, so I wouldn't dedicate a lot of money to this line item, but if you want to keep something in place as a placeholder, I guess it's okay. But, like I think you said it best, this whole thing's on hold right now. So we have to give the Region 12 folks sufficient amount of time to wrap their heads around what they want to do with their administration. So, and we'll know when we know.
Right.
Michelle, the only thing I would say is keep in mind that if there's not, for example, this isn't a capital item, so it's going to roll back into the general fund. If there's not a specific need, it's going to be very difficult with all the, everything from medic service to fuel oil to the school budget. There's a lot of influencers on the budget. So if there's not going to be a specific design for this thing, it's probably, I don't imagine it's going to last in the budget. So if you do have a specific use, by all means, but we're going to be looking for everything we can find. I mean,
okay, so I'll circle that one as one that should maybe come out. And the whole work on the middle housing renovation fund, hopefully maybe the Housing Commission can budget some money if there's something needed to start that up. What I'm thinking is whether it's legal advice or consulting. We had with the now subgroup, like 2 years ago, pre-COVID actually, Julie King had come up with a really pretty phenomenal, I thought, way of, or an idea of having a fund available for people whose houses would not pass a HUD inspection because of electrical work or, code work. And so in order for somebody to qualify for a CHAFA loan, they need to be able to pass all of these things. So the renovation fund would be available to bring houses to code. And then, so it would be like a loan. And then once the house sold, that money would be paid back to the fund. So it would be sort of a revolving. And then COVID came and all those houses sold. This went back when we had houses, smaller houses sitting on the market that had been on the market for years that just needed a little too much work for a brand new homeowner to consider. So anyway, we can probably work that through the Housing Commission, hopefully. So I'll circle that as something that maybe comes out. The next goal and line item was to continue to work with the WBA, and that's got a line item of $1,000 for supplies. This is where, we set up the table for the Harvest Fest, and we set up with, we did the Harvest Fest and the community days. We collect emails, so it's printing, I bought the tablecloth that we use out here. Sometimes one of the things that I needed to purchase, I haven't done yet, are the holders for the guidebooks. Some of the stores don't have those that we bought. We had, so I think when the first guidebook was printed, we distributed them with some holders, and businesses have changed. So anyway, it's for things like that. It's just the work that we do with the WBA. Oh, I highlighted some stuff. I think that should stay, but certainly we can, if anyone has thoughts on that, we can think about that. So this is an interesting one. 8, to conduct a survey review to outline improved pedestrian and parking options for the villages. We want to continue to work on this. The money to do the work with the engineers on the Titus project came. We didn't budget for that. I have to ask Jim where that came from. It came from the highway department or the selectmen's budget. But I do think that maybe the EDC can request or support putting money into the capital fund for sidewalks. I mean, the New Preston sidewalks that we did were town funded. That was a small project. You know, if we're gonna, I think there was a plan for this year that for the town to replace some of the sidewalks in the depot, not obviously in the depot where it's all brand new, but between the Hickory Stick and the Judy Black Park, just continuing along to continue the sidewalk repair. So I don't know that it belongs in our budget, but I think we should support the addition of sidewalk money in the town capital budget. But if we need engineering, we'll have to ask Jim where he would rather, where that should go, whether it's EDC or highway. Are you still with us, Jim?
He
No,
left,
he's-
Michelle, he left.
Thank you. It's hard for me to see when I'm sharing my screen. Yeah, he had to run up to the firehouse for a meeting. So I will speak with him about where he feels that belongs in the budget, but it's certainly a goal of ours to continue improving our villages. The last budget item here is to support and advance town and regional arts and culture organizations and events. We have for the last 2 summers done a printing of a postcard that has all of the events for the summer, upcoming events. And we've gotten great feedback on that. People put it on their refrigerator, they saved it for the summer. So I would say I would leave this. I think we should continue that. It doesn't take the full 2,000, but then that leaves a little bit more for the new arts and culture, or the Arts Council, or whatever they're going to call themselves, but the Arts Council, in case they wanted to maybe put together a pamphlet or a brochure of some sort. So I would leave that 2,000. But does anyone have any comments or questions on that? No. All right. Anything else that we have not included yet? Goals for next year? I know I've spent last year, or was it this year's budget? No, it was in this year's budget. I actually spent some of our project money to buy the pedestrian safety signs for the crosswalks, which need replacing because they were hit so many times, which is a little frightening. So hopefully if there's money at the end of this budget that is unexpended, I'll look at replacing those pedestrian signs. We had also talked at one point about using some of the, I don't know if it was ARPA money, maybe it was CARES money, for picnic tables. We had asked, we had talked about adding some to the river on Titus, kind of behind where Sotheby's is, and it's sort of overflow Marty's. I mean, especially during the height of COVID, there were some lunchtimes in the summer when every picnic table in the depot was full. So I thought the addition of 1 or 2 might be nice. I don't know if that's that's not really capital. I don't think that's enough for a capital item. So those were two thoughts I had for any unexpended funds for this year, but I didn't really have future funds for next year. Does anybody have thoughts on goals and things that we should be working on for next year that we haven't yet accomplished? Because most of these are long-term goals.
Is it possible to think about this and get back to you ASAP?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a lot. To just all of a sudden only be halfway through the year and planning for next year. Here, I'll stop sharing my screen for the moment so I can see you all. I know it's a lot to ask. Because I had really just planned on doing sort of a mid-year touch point. Which, and we've made some good progress on our goals for the year. I'm just looking at, our goals were sort of in a different format. You know what, I'll pull it up. I think I opened it. Where we had the EDC as primary goal. We had 6 primary goals for ourselves. Well, actually, they're all in our budget. So I'll just read. There is the communications engagement, working with the WBA, working with the NOW subgroup, arts and culture, pedestrian, and fiber optics. Those were our 6 large goals. And we've touched on every single one of those so far this year and made some really good progress on some. So I felt like we're in a good place there. Our secondary goals were someone else was primary. We've got the support of the Washington Community Center where the selectmen are primary. Support of the Housing Commission's implementation of the housing plan where housing is primary. And then the work of Sustainability Committee where sustainability is primary. And we've made progress on all of those fronts as well, not as much as we would like some. So, well, think about it. I feel like all of those goals are worth continuing. We might want to rearrange their order or prioritize differently. But take a look, think about next year. And if there's a budget request to go with that, I will. But I'll submit what we talked about today as a placeholder with the business office for now. You know, maybe we can revisit some of the POCD and just see if there are any goals in there that we haven't touched on in a while, you know, things that didn't make the list for this year. I feel like we've touched on almost everything that was asked of us in the POCD, or we've purposefully chosen not to. But that's, yeah, food for thought there. Any other thoughts or comments on the budget?
Nope.
All right, thank you. I see Fran is still here. Do you want to, oh, and Lisa too. Do you have a report from the WBA you'd like to share with us?
I'm assuming.
Sorry,
There.
I'm trying
Okay.
to manage my screen. Yeah, we don't really have much to report. We have a meeting tomorrow, so we'll
Okay.
probably report next month on anything that we have going on.
Did you want to add anything, Fran?
No.
I will share one thing. I've had conversations with at least 2 businesses now. And it's a challenge right now. We know we're in the slow season. And inflation, the cost of doing business has increased a lot. And so I know our businesses are working hard. And so I just wonder if there are more ways that we as the EDC can support them. We do a lot to promote our town to make sure that they're getting the business that they need. But maybe there are other things that we're not thinking of. I mean, the joint events between the WBA and Parks and Rec have been fabulous, have brought a lot of people to town. But we're in the slow season right now, and I know it's a challenge for some. We did lose Washington Curated. She let her lease run out at the end of December, so they've left. Has anyone, I don't, Inari, the new restaurant in the Depot, I keep trying to stop by and they're not open. Was it Kristen or Trisha? Somebody had gone and.
They have hours posted now, Thursday through Saturday, 3 days. I think Thursday through Saturday it says. They just
I know,
posted.
I've been on a couple of Friday, like I've gone during the posted hours and they weren't open, so I hope.
Oh, I don't know them.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know. I hope things are okay. Maybe someone was sick. I have to say, I don't go weekly to try to check in with them, but I've stopped by at least 3 or 4 times during the posted hours and they weren't open, so. they're
I've
okay.
stopped too unsuccessfully.
Yeah,
They have a website?
I think they had Instagram.
Okay.
Or Facebook, I don't remember. I was able to find a menu and stuff online, but I don't remember if it was actually a website or if it was an
Okay.
Instagram. Yeah,
Give 'em a call.
maybe I'll check in with some of the neighbors there, the neighboring businesses who might see. Electa might know. So anyway, it's just food for thought, ways we can support our local businesses. You know, we haven't done a large buy local campaign in a while. Maybe we could think about doing something along those lines, so.
Yep.
Possible to maybe at the workshop talk about forming a group that could discuss ways the EDC could work, could benefit the WBA. With some members that are at this workshop. It's probably, it's kind of a difficult to throw it on everyone and have them come up with ideas, but it would be good to put a group together that can do that.
Right. Well, I think that's great, a great idea, and I'm hoping we'll be getting some good comments and or questions at that workshop. Bringing Julia in to share free ways to promote your business is hopefully going to be helpful to the businesses, but there might be other things that they need that we could help provide, whether it's workshops or information. So yeah, hopefully we'll find out more at the workshop, or we could put a couple, a little committee together of some business owners and some of our members. It's a great idea.
Great.
Jim left. Was there anything else, Lisa, friend, part of the WBA?
No, that's it really.
Yeah.
Jim left, so I don't believe that, I don't know what he would have reported on his selectmen. I know the last 2 meetings they've been talking a lot about the transfer station and how that's almost up and running, in bits and pieces. All of the new changes are coming together, so hopefully shortly that will be fully operational. I can't think of anything else that he would have reported on. Do we have any other questions or comments from anybody here, visitors as well? Chris?
I have I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Dan.
Is this election year?
I think it
In other
is.
words, will Jim and company run this year?
Yes, Dan, it is. This is Joan.
Sorry, was there an answer?
Dan, this is Joan. This is a municipal election year.
It is.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Michelle, I have a quick question. I was just wondering, do we have any news or inquiries into the former Litchfield Bank space in the depot?
That someone was purchasing it, but I've been watching the debates.
breaking up, Michelle. We can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
No,
No,
we can't.
I couldn't hear you.
Sorry. So Jim said that somebody has approached him and has put in an offer, but I've been watching the records, it hasn't sold yet. And so I'm wondering if the sale might be contingent on getting some kind of permits, whether it's a change in use. I did hear it might be a restaurant, and so they would have to get some health department. So that's what I've heard, but I have not seen anything official.
Have you heard anything indicating that the Owl might be making some moves? It's not clear to me whether they would be adding, but someone mentioned that they were looking at New Milford.
I did hear that they were looking to expand. I don't think they're looking to leave their current space.
They're not. Okay,
yeah,
that's great.
That
Thank
they,
you.
like whether it's a satellite, I think they want to do more catering than, but their kitchen is not large enough. So I think they were looking for an additional space, is what I heard. But again, I haven't. I don't know.
Okay.
I
anything.
heard that
What-
too, Michelle. I heard they were looking to do much more catering, and they're
Yes.
working on their menu now.
Great, yeah. Which is interesting. I kind of wonder if we have any, if they're just looking for catering, if there are commercial kitchens in town that would be available. Whether it's in churches or, well, anyway, maybe I'll reach out to Ryan and see what exactly they're looking for. Any other questions or comments? No. All right, well, that's all I have for everyone. Thank you all for being here. If you have thoughts on goals and or budget items, because we usually tie our budget to goals. So if you have any thoughts on that in the next few days, please share them with me. Maybe we'll visit it again. I'll clean up what our request for the next year looks like, and I'll share that at the February meeting. So we have something more concrete to go with or to work on. All right.
Great.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. I'll consider that a motion, and all in favor?
Hi.
All right. Thank you so much,
All right.
everybody. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Thanks.